The Dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh. To the beloved of God and the handmaids of the merciful throughout the West, fellow laborers in the divine vineyard. On the 23rd of May of this auspicious year, the Baha'i world will celebrate the 90th anniversary of the founding of the faith of Baha'u'lláh. We, who at this hour find ourselves standing on the threshold of the last decade of the first century of the Baha'i era, might well pause to reflect upon the mysterious dispensations of so august, so momentous a revelation. How vast, how entrancing the panorama which the revolution of 80 years unrolls before our eyes. Its towering grandeur well nigh overwhelms us. To merely contemplate this unique spectacle, to visualize, however dimly, the circumstances attending the birth and gradual unfoldment of this supreme theophany, to recall, even in their barest outline, the woeful struggles that proclaimed its rise and accelerated its march, will suffice to convince every unbiased observer of those eternal truths that motivate its life and which must continue to impel it forward until it achieves its destined ascendancy. Dominating the entire range of this fascinating spectacle towers the incomparable figure of Baha'u'lláh, transcendental in his majesty, serene, awe-inspiring, unapproachably glorious, allied though subordinate in rank and invested with the authority of presiding with him over the destinies of this supreme dispensation. There shines upon this mental picture the youthful glory of the Bab, infinite in his tenderness, irresistible in his charm, unsurpassed in his heroism, matchless in the dramatic circumstances of his short yet eventful life. And finally, there emerges, though on a plane of its own, and in a category entirely apart from the one occupied by the twin figures that preceded him, the vibrant, the magnetic personality of Abdu'l-Baha, reflecting to a degree that no man, however exalted his station, can hope to rival, the glory and power with which they who are the manifestations of God are alone endowed. With Abdu'l-Baha's ascension, and more particularly with the passing of his well-beloved and illustrious sister, the most exalted leaf, the last survivor of a glorious and heroic age, there draws to a close the first and most moving chapter of Baha'i history, marking the conclusion of the primitive, apostolic age of the faith of Baha'u'lláh. It was Abdu'l-Baha who, through the provisions of his weighty will and testament, has forged the vital link which must forever connect the age that has just expired with the one we now live in, the transitional and formative period of the faith, a stage that must, in the fullness of time, reach its blossom and yield its fruit in the exploits and triumphs that are to herald the golden age of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. Dearly beloved friends, the onrushing forces so miraculously released through the agency of two independent and swiftly successive manifestations are now under our very eyes, and through the care of the chosen stewards of a far-flung faith being gradually mustered and disciplined, they are slowly crystallizing into institutions that will come to be regarded as the hallmark and glory of the age we are called upon to establish and by our deeds immortalize. For upon our present-day efforts, and above all upon the extent to which we strive to remodel our lives after the pattern of sublime heroism associated with those gone before us, must depend upon the efficacy of the instruments we now fashion, instruments that must erect the structure of that blissful commonwealth which must signalize the golden age of our faith. It is not my purpose, as I look back upon these crowded years of heroic deeds, to attempt even a cursory review of the mighty events that have transpired since 1844 until the present day, nor have I any intention to undertake an analysis of the forces that have precipitated them, or to evaluate their influence upon peoples and institutions in almost every continent of the globe. The authentic record of the lives of the first believers of the primitive period of our faith, together with the assiduous research which competent Baha'i historians will in the future undertake, will combine to transmit to posterity such masterly exposition of the history of that age as my own efforts can never hope to accomplish. My chief concern at this challenging period of Baha'i history is rather to call the attention of those who are destined to be the champion builders of the administrative order of Baha'u'lláh to certain fundamental verities and elucidation of which must tremendously assist them in the effective prosecution of their mighty enterprise. The international status which the religion of God has thus far achieved, moreover, imperatively demands that its root principles be now definitely clarified. The unprecedented impetus which the illustrious deeds of the American believers have lent to the onward march of the faith, the intense interest which the first masterful askar of the West is fast awakening among diverse races and nations, the rise and steady consolidation of Baha'i institutions in no less than 40 of the most advanced countries of the world, the dissemination of Baha'i literature in no fewer than 25 of the most widely spoken languages, the success that has recently attended the nationwide efforts of the Persian believers in the preliminary steps they have taken for the establishment in the outskirts of the capital city of their native land of the third Mashriqul Askar of the Baha'i world, the measures that are being taken for the immediate formation of their first national spiritual assembly representing the interests of the overwhelming majority of Baha'i adherents, the projected erection of yet another pillar of the Universal House of Justice, the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere, the testimonies, both verbal and written, that a struggling faith has obtained from royalty, from governmental institutions, international tribunals, and ecclesiastical dignitaries, the publicity it has received from the charges which unrelenting enemies, both new and old, have hurled against it, the formal enfranchisement of a section of its followers from the fetters of Muslim orthodoxy in a country that may be regarded as the most enlightened among the Islamic nations. These afford ample proof of the growing momentum with which the invincible community of the Most Great Name is marching forward to ultimate victory. Dearly beloved friends, I feel it incumbent upon me, by virtue of the obligations and responsibilities which as guardian of the faith of Baha'u'lláh I am called upon to discharge, to lay special stress at a time when the light of publicity is being increasingly focused upon us, upon certain truths which lie at the basis of our faith, and the integrity of which it is our first duty to safeguard. These verities, if valiantly upheld and properly assimilated, will, I am convinced, powerfully reinforce the vigor of our spiritual life and greatly assist in counteracting the machinations of an implacable and vigilant enemy. To strive to obtain a more adequate understanding of the significance of Baha'u'llah's stupendous revelation must, it is my unalterable conviction, remain the first obligation and the object of the constant endeavor of each one of its loyal adherents. An exact and thorough comprehension of so vast a system, so sublime a revelation, so sacred a trust, is for obvious reasons beyond the reach and ken of our finite minds. We can, however, and it is our bounden duty to seek to derive fresh inspiration and added sustenance as we labor for the propagation of this faith through a clearer apprehension of the truths it enshrines and the principles on which it is based. In a communication addressed to the American believers, I have, in the course of my explanation of the station of the Bab, made a passing reference to the incomparable greatness of the revelation of which he considered himself to be the humble precursor. He whom Baha'u'lláh has acclaimed in the Kitab-i-Igan as that promised Qaim, who has manifested no less than 25 out of the 27 letters which the prophets were destined to reveal. So great a revealer has himself testified to the preeminence of that superior revelation that was soon to supersede his own. The germ, the Bab asserts in the Persian Bayan, that holds within itself the potentialities of the revelation that is to come, is endowed with a potency superior to the combined forces of all those who follow me. Of all the tributes, he again affirms, I have paid to him who is to come after me, the greatest is this, my written confession that no words of mine can adequately describe him, nor can any reference to him in my book, the Bayan, do justice in his cause. The Bayan, he in that same book categorically declares, and whosoever is therein revolve round the saying of him whom God shall make manifest, even as the Alif, the gospel, and whosoever was therein revolved round the saying of Muhammad, the apostle of God. 1,000 perusals of the Bayan, he further remarks, cannot equal the perusal of a single verse to be revealed by him whom God shall make manifest. Today the Bayan is in the stage of seed. At the beginning of the manifestation of him whom God will make manifest, its ultimate perfection will become apparent. The Bayan and such as are believers therein yearn more ardently after him than the yearning of any lover after his beloved. The Bayan deriveth all its glory from him whom God shall make manifest. All blessing be upon him who believeth in him, and woe betide him that rejecteth his truth. Addressing Sayyid Ya'i Idarabi, surnamed Vahid, the most learned, the most eloquent, and influential among his followers, the Bab utters this warning. By the righteousness of him whose power causeth the seed to germinate, and who breatheth the spirit of life into all things, were I to be assured that in the day of his manifestation thou wilt deny him, I would unhesitatingly disown thee and repudiate thy faith. If, on the other hand, I be told that a Christian who beareth no allegiance to my faith will believe in him, the same will I regard as the apple of mine eye. In one of his prayers he thus communes with Baha'u'lláh, Exalted art thou, O my Lord, the Omnipotent. How puny and contemptible my word and all that pertaineth unto me appear, unless they be related to thy glory. Grant that through the assistance of thy grace, whatsoever pertaineth unto me may be acceptable in thy sight. In the Qayyum al-Asma, the Bab's commentary on the Surah of Joseph, characterized by the author of the Egan as the first, the greatest, and mightiest of the books revealed by the Bab, we read the following references to Baha'u'lláh. Out of utter nothingness, O great and omnipotent Master, thou hast, through the celestial potency of thy might, brought me forth and raised me up to proclaim this revelation. I have made none other but thee my trust. I have clung to no will but thy will. O thou remnant of God, I have sacrificed myself wholly for thee. I have accepted curses for thy sake, and have yearned for naught but martyrdom in the path of thy love. Sufficient witness unto me is God, the exalted, the protector, the ancient of days. And when the appointed hour has struck, he again addresses Baha'u'lláh in that same commentary, do thou, by the leave of God, the all-wise, reveal from the heights of the most lofty and mystic mount a faint and infinitesimal glimmer of thy impenetrable mystery, that they who have recognized the radiance of the Sinaitic splendor may faint away and die as they catch a lightning glimpse of the fierce and crimson light that envelops thy revelation. As a further testimony to the greatness of the revelation identified with Baha'u'lláh, may be cited the following extracts from a tablet addressed by Abdu'l-Baha to an eminent Zoroastrian follower of the faith. Thou hast written that in the sacred books of the followers of Zoroaster, it is written that in the latter days, in 3 separate dispensations, the sun must needs be brought to a standstill. In the first dispensation, it is predicted the sun will remain motionless for 10 days. In the second, for twice that time. In the third, for no less than 1 whole month. The interpretation of this prophecy is this. The first dispensation to which it refers is the Muhammadan dispensation, during which the Sun of Truth stood still for 10 days. Each day is reckoned as 1 century. The Muhammadan dispensation must have, therefore, lasted no less than 1,000 years, which is precisely the period that has elapsed from the setting of the star of the Imamate to the advent of the dispensation proclaimed by the Bab. The second dispensation referred to in this prophecy is the one inaugurated by the Bab himself, which began in the year 1280 AH. As to the third dispensation, the revelation proclaimed by Baha'u'lláh, inasmuch as the Sun of Truth, when attaining that station, shineth in the plenitude of its meridian splendor, its duration hath been fixed for a period of 1 whole month, which is the maximum time taken by the sun to pass through a sign of the zodiac. From this thou canst imagine the magnitude of the Baha'i cycle, a cycle that must extend over a period of at least 500,000 years. From the text of this explicit and authoritative interpretation of so ancient a prophecy, it is evident how necessary it is for every faithful follower of the faith to accept the divine origin and uphold the independent status of the Muhammadan dispensation. The validity of the Imamate is moreover implicitly recognized in these same passages. That divinely appointed institution, of whose most distinguished member the Bab himself was a lineal descendant, and which continued for a period of no less than 260 years to be the chosen recipient of the guidance of the Almighty and the repository of one of the two most precious legacies of Islam. This same prophecy, we must furthermore recognize, attests the independent character of the Babi dispensation and corroborates indirectly the truth that, in accordance with the principle of progressive revelation, every manifestation of God must needs vouchsafe to the peoples of his day a measure of divine guidance, ampler than any which a preceding and less receptive age could have received or appreciated. For this reason, and not for any superior merit which the Bahá'í Faith may be said to inherently possess, does this prophecy bear witness to the unrivaled power and glory with which the dispensation of Baha'u'lláh has been invested, a dispensation the potentialities of which we are but beginning to perceive, and the full range of which we can never determine. The faith of Baha'u'lláh should indeed be regarded, if we wish to be faithful to the tremendous implications of its message, as the culmination of a cycle, the final stage in a series of successive, of preliminary and progressive revelations. These, beginning with Adam and ending with the Bab, have paved the way and anticipated, with an ever-increasing emphasis, the advent of that day of days, in which He, who is the promise of all ages, shall be made manifest. To this truth, the utterances of Baha'u'lláh abundantly testify. A mere reference to the claims which, in vehement language and with compelling power, he himself has repeatedly advanced, cannot but fully demonstrate the character of the revelation of which he was the chosen bearer. To the words that have streamed from his pen, the fountainhead of so impetuous a revelation, we should, therefore, direct our attention if we wish to obtain a clearer understanding of its importance and meaning. Whether in his assertion of the unprecedented claim he has advanced, or in his allusions to the mysterious forces he has released, whether in such passages as extol the glories of his long-awaited day, or magnify the station which they who have recognized its hidden virtues will attain. Baha'u'lláh, and to an almost equal extent the Bab and Abdu'l-Baha, have bequeathed to posterity minds of such inestimable wealth as none of us who belong to this generation can befittingly estimate. Such testimonies bearing on this theme are impregnated with such power and reveal such beauty as only those who are versed in the languages in which they were originally revealed can claim to have sufficiently appreciated. So numerous are these testimonies that a whole volume would be required to be written in order to compile the most outstanding of them. All I can venture to attempt at present is to share with you only such passages as I have been able to glean from his voluminous writings. I testify before God, proclaims Baha'u'lláh, to the greatness, the inconceivable greatness of this revelation. Again and again have we in most of our tablets borne witness to this truth, that mankind may be roused from its heedlessness. In this most mighty revelation, he unequivocally announces all the dispensations of the past have attained their highest, their final consummation. That which had been made manifest in this preeminent, this most exalted revelation stands unparalleled in the annals of the past, nor will future ages witness its light. He it is, referring to himself, he further proclaims, who in the Old Testament had been named Jehovah, who in the Gospel had been designated as the Spirit of Truth, and in the Quran acclaimed as the Great Announcement. But for him no divine messenger would have been invested with the robe of prophethood, nor would any of the sacred scriptures have been revealed. To this bear witness all created things. The word which the one true God uttereth in this day, though that word be the most familiar and commonplace of terms, is invested with unique distinction. The generality of mankind is still immature. Had it acquired sufficient capacity, we would have bestowed upon it so great a measure of our knowledge that all who dwell on earth and in heaven would have found themselves, by virtue of the grace streaming from our pen, completely independent of all knowledge save the knowledge of God, and would have been securely established upon the throne of abiding tranquility. The pen of holiness, I solemnly affirm before God, hath writ upon my snow-white brow, and in characters of effulgent glory, these musk-scented and holy words. Behold, ye that dwell on earth, and ye denizens of heaven, bear witness, he in truth is your well-beloved. He it is whose like the world of creation hath not seen. He whose ravishing beauty hath delighted the eye of God, the ordainer, the all-powerful, the incomparable. Followers of the gospel, Baha'u'lláh, addressing the whole of Christendom, exclaims, behold, the gates of heaven are flung open. He that hath ascended unto it is now come. Give ear to his voice, calling aloud over land and sea, announcing to all mankind the advent of this revelation, a revelation through the agency of which the tongue of grandeur is now proclaiming. Lo, the sacred pledge hath been fulfilled, for he, the promised one, is come. The voice of the Son of Man is calling aloud from the sacred veil, here am I, O God, my God. Whilst from the burning bush breaketh forth the cry, lo, the desire of the world is made manifest in his transcendent glory. The Father hath come. That which ye were promised in the kingdom of God is fulfilled. This is the word which the Son veiled, when he said to those around him that at the time they could not bear it, verily the Spirit of truth is come to guide you unto all truth. He is the one who glorified the Son and exalted his cause. The Comforter, whose advent all the scriptures have promised, is now come, that he may reveal unto you all knowledge and wisdom. Seek him over the entire surface of the earth. Haply ye may find him. Call out to Zion, O Carmel, writes Baha'u'lláh, and announce the joyful tidings. He that was hidden from mortal eyes is come. His all-conquering sovereignty is manifest. His all-encompassing splendor is revealed. Hasten forth and circumambulate the city of God that hath descended from heaven, the celestial Kaaba, round which have circled in adoration the favorite of God, the pure in heart, and the company of the most exalted angels. I am the one, he in another connection affirms, whom the tongue of Isaiah hath extolled, the one whose name both the Torah and the Evangel were adorned. The glory of Sinai hath hastened to circle round the dayspring of this revelation, whilst from the heights of the kingdom the voice of the Son of God is heard proclaiming, bestir yourselves, ye proud ones of the earth, and hasten ye towards him. Carmel hath in this day hastened in longing adoration to attain his court, whilst from the heart of Zion there cometh the cry, the promise of all ages is now fulfilled. That which had been announced in the holy writ of God, the beloved, the Most High, is made manifest. A jaws is astir by the breeze announcing the tidings of joyous reunion. Praise be to thee, we hear her exclaim, O my Lord, the Most High. I was dead through my separation from thee. The breeze, laden with the fragrance of thy presence, hath brought me back to life. Happy is he that turneth unto thee, and woe betide the erring. By the one true God, Elijah hath hastened unto my court, and hath circumambulated in the daytime and in the night season my throne of glory. Solomon in all his majesty circles in adoration around me in this day, uttering this most exalted word. I have turned my face towards thy face, O thou omnipotent ruler of the world. I am wholly detached from all things pertaining unto me, and yearn for that which thou dost possess. Had Muhammad, the apostle of God, attained this day, Baha'u'lláh writes in a tablet revealed on the eve of his banishment to the penal colony of Akka, he would have exclaimed, I have truly recognized thee, O thou the desire of the divine messengers. Had Abraham attained it, he too, falling prostrate upon the ground, and in the utmost lowliness before the Lord thy God, would have cried, Mine heart is filled with peace, O thou Lord of all that is in heaven and on earth. Testify that thou hast unveiled before mine eyes all the glory of thy power and the full majesty of thy law. Had Moses himself attained it, he likewise would have raised his voice, saying, All praise be to thee, for having lifted upon me the light of thy countenance, and enrolled me among them that have been privileged to behold thy face. North and south vibrate to the call announcing the advent of our revelation. We can hear the voice of Mecca exclaiming, All praise be to thee, O Lord my God, the all-glorious, for having wafted over me the breath redolent with the fragrance of thy presence. Jerusalem likewise is calling aloud, Lauded and magnified art thou, O beloved of earth and heaven, for having turned the agony of my separation from thee into the joy of a life-giving reunion. By the righteousness of God, Baha'u'lláh, wishing to reveal the full potency of his invisible power, asserts, should a man all alone arise in the name of Baha and put on the armor of his love, him will the Almighty cause to be victorious, though the forces of earth and heaven be arrayed against him. By God, besides whom is none other God, should anyone arise for the triumph of our cause, him will God render victorious, though tens of thousands of enemies be leagued against him. And if his love for me wax stronger, God will establish his ascendancy over all the powers of earth and heaven. Thus have we breathed the spirit of power into all regions. This is the King of Days. He thus extols that the age has witnessed the advent of his revelation, the day that has seen the coming of the best beloved, him who through all eternity hath been acclaimed the desire of the world. The world of beings shineth in this day with the resplendency of this divine revelation. All created things extol its saving grace and sing its praises. The universe is wrapped in an ecstasy of joy and gladness. The scriptures of past dispensations celebrate the great jubilee that must needs greet this most great day of God. Well is it with him that hath lived to see this day and hath recognized its station. Were mankind to give heed in a befitting manner to no more than one word of such a praise, it would be so filled with delight as to be overpowered and lost in wonder. Entranced, it would then shine forth resplendent above the horizon of true understanding. Be fair, ye peoples of the world, he thus appeals to mankind. Is it meet and seemly for you to question the authority of one whose presence he who conversed with God, Moses, hath longed to attain, the beauty of whose countenance God's well-beloved Muhammad had yearned to behold, through the potency of whose love the Spirit of God, Jesus, ascended to heaven, for whose sake the primal point the Bab offered up his life. Seize your chance, he admonishes his followers, inasmuch as a fleeting moment in this day excelleth centuries of a bygone age. Neither sun nor moon hath witnessed a day such as this. It is evident that every age in which a manifestation of God hath lived is divinely ordained and may, in a sense, be characterized as God's appointed day. This day, however, is unique and is to be distinguished from those that have preceded it. The designation seal of the prophets fully reveals and demonstrates its high station. Expatiating on the forces latent in his revelation, Baha'u'lláh reveals the following. Through the movement of our pen of glory, we have, at the bidding of the omnipotent ordainer, breathed a new life into every human frame and instilled into every word a fresh potency. All created things proclaim the evidences of this worldwide regeneration. This is, he adds, the most great, the most joyful tidings imparted by the pen of this wronged one to mankind. How great, he in another passage exclaims, is the cause, how staggering the weight of its message. This is the day of which it hath been said, O my son, verily God will bring everything to light, though it were but the weight of a grain of mustard seed, and hidden in a rock, or in the heavens, or in the earth. For God is subtle, informed of all. By the righteousness of the one true God, if one speck of a jewel be lost, and buried beneath a mountain of stones, and lie hidden beyond the seven seas, the hand of omnipotence will assuredly reveal it in this day, pure and cleansed from dross. He that partaketh of the waters of my revelation will taste all the incorruptible delights ordained by God, from the beginning that hath no beginning to the end that hath no end. Every single letter proceeding from our mouth is endowed with such regenerative power as to enable it to bring into existence a new creation, a creation the magnitude of which is inscrutable to all save God. He verily hath knowledge of all things. It is in our power, should we wish it, to enable a speck of floating dust to generate, in less than the twinkling of an eye, suns of infinite, of unimaginable splendor, to cause a dewdrop to develop into vast and numberless oceans, to infuse into every letter such a force as to empower it to unfold all the knowledge of past and future ages. We are possessed of such power which, if brought to light, will transmute the most deadly of poisons into a panacea of unfailing efficacy. Estimating the station of the true believer, he remarks, by the sorrows which afflict the beauty of the all-glorious, such is the station ordained for the true believer, that if to an extent smaller than a needle's eye, the glory of that station were to be unveiled to mankind, every beholder would be consumed away in his longing to attain it. For this reason it hath been decreed that in this earthly life the full measure of the glory of his own station should remain concealed from the eyes of such a believer. If the veil be lifted, he similarly affirms, and the full glory of the station of those who have turned wholly towards God, and in their love for him renounce the world, be made manifest, the entire creation would be dumbfounded. Stressing the superlative character of his revelation as compared with the dispensation preceding it, Baha'u'lláh makes the following affirmation. If all the peoples of the world be invested with the powers and attributes destined for the letters of the living, the Bab's chosen disciples, whose station is 10,000 times more glorious than any which the apostles of old have attained, and if they one and all should, swift as the twinkling of an eye, hesitate to recognize the light of my revelation, their faith shall be of no avail, and they shall be accounted among the infidels. So tremendous is the outpouring of divine grace in this dispensation, that if mortal hands could be swift enough to record them, within the space of a single day and night, there would stream verses of such number as to be equivalent to the whole of the Persian Bayan. Give heed to my warning, ye people of Persia, he thus addresses his countrymen. If I be slain at your hands, God will assuredly raise up one who will fill the seat made vacant through my death. For such is God's method carried into effect of old, and no change can ye find in God's mode of dealing. Should they attempt to conceal his light on the continent, he will assuredly rear his head in the midmost heart of the ocean, and raising his voice proclaim, I am the life giver of the world. And if they cast him into a darksome pit, they will find him seated on the earth's loftiest heights, calling aloud to all mankind, "Lo, the desire of the world is come in his majesty, his sovereignty, his transcendent dominion. And if he be buried beneath the depths of the earth, his spirit soaring to the apex of heaven shall peal the summons. Behold ye the coming of the glory. Witness ye the kingdom of God, the most holy, the gracious, the all-powerful." Within the throat of this youth is yet another astounding statement. There lie prisoned accents, if revealed to mankind to an extent smaller than a needle's eye, would suffice to cause every mountain to crumble, the leaves of the trees to be discolored, and their fruits to fall, would compel every head to bow down in worship, and every face to turn in adoration towards this omnipotent ruler, who, at sundry times and in diverse manners, appeareth as a devouring flame, as a billowing ocean, as a radiant light, as the tree which, rooted in the soil of holiness, lifteth its branches and spreadeth out its limbs as far as and beyond the throne of deathless glory. Anticipating the system which the irresistible power of his law was destined to unfold in a later age, he writes, "The world's equilibrium hath been upset through the vibrating influence of this most great, this new world order. Mankind's ordered life hath been revolutionized through the agency of this unique, this wondrous system, the like of which mortal eyes have never witnessed. The hand of omnipotence hath established his revelation upon an unassailable and enduring foundation. Storms of human strife are powerless to undermine its basis, nor will men's fanciful theories succeed in damaging its structure." In the Suratul Hikal, one of the most challenging works of Baha'u'lláh, the following verses, each of which testifies to the resistless power infused into the revelation proclaimed by its author, have been recorded. "Naught is seen in my temple but the temple of God, and in my beauty but his beauty, and in my being but his being, and in myself but his self, and in my movement but his movement, and in my acquiescence but his acquiescence, and in my pen but his pen, the mighty, the all-praised. There hath not been in my soul but the truth, and in myself naught could be seen but God. The Holy Spirit itself hath been generated through the agency of a single letter revealed by this most great Spirit, if ye be of them that comprehend. Within the treasury of our wisdom there lies unrevealed a knowledge, one word of which, if we choose to divulge it to mankind, would cause every human being to recognize the manifestation of God and to acknowledge his omniscience, would enable everyone to discover the secrets of all the sciences and to attain so high a station as to find himself wholly independent of all past and future learning. Other knowledges we do as well possess, not a single letter of which we can disclose, nor do we find humanity able to hear even the barest reference to their meaning. Thus have we informed you of the knowledge of God, the all-knowing, the all-wise. The day is approaching when God will have, by an act of his will, raised up a race of men, the nature of which is inscrutable to all save God, the all-powerful, the self-subsisting. He will, ere long, out of the bosom of power, draw forth the hands of ascendancy and might, hands who will arise to win victory for this youth, and who will purge mankind from the defilement of the outcast and the ungodly. These hands will gird up their loins to champion the faith of God, and will in my name, the self-subsistent, the mighty, subdue the peoples and kindreds of the earth. They will enter the cities and will inspire with fear the hearts of all their inhabitants. Such are the evidences of the might of God. How fearful, how vehement is his might. Such is, dearly beloved friends, Baha'u'llah's own written testimony to the nature of his revelation, to the affirmations of the Bab, each of which reinforces the strength and confirms the truth of these remarkable statements I have already referred. What remains for me to consider in this connection are such passages in the writings of Abdul Baha, the appointed interpreter of these same utterances, as throw further light upon and amplify various features of this enthralling theme. The tone of his language is indeed emphatic, and his tribute no less glowing than that of either Baha'u'lláh or the Baha. Centuries, nay ages must pass away, he affirms in one of his earliest tablets, ere the day star of truth shineth again in its midsummer splendor, or appeareth once more in the radiance of its vernal glory. How thankful must we be for having been made in this day recipients of so overwhelming a favor. Would that we had 10,000 lives that we might lay them down in thanksgiving for so rare a privilege, so high an attainment, so priceless a bounty. The mere contemplation, he adds, of the dispensation inaugurated by the Blessed Beauty would have sufficed to overwhelm the saints of bygone ages, saints who have longed to partake for one moment of its great glory. The holy ones of past ages and centuries have each and all yearned with tearful eyes to live, though for one moment, in the day of God. Their longings unsatisfied, they repair to the great beyond. How great, therefore, is the bounty of the Abba Beauty, who, notwithstanding our utter unworthiness, hath, through his grace and mercy, breathed into us in this divinely illumined century the spirit of life, has gathered together the standard of the beloved of the world, and chosen to confer upon us a bounty for which the mighty ones of bygone ages have craved in vain. The souls of the well-favored among the concourse on high, he likewise affirms, the sacred dwellers of the most exalted paradise, are in this day filled with burning desire to return unto this world, that they may render such service as lieth in their power to the threshold of the Abba Beauty. The effulgence of God's splendorous mercy, he in a passage alluding to the growth and future development of the faith, declares, hath enveloped the peoples and kindreds of the earth, and the whole world is bathed in its shining glory. The day will soon come when the light of divine unity will have so permeated the east and the west that no man dare any longer ignore it. Now, in the world of being, the hand of divine power hath firmly laid the foundations of this all-highest bounty and this wondrous gift. Whatsoever is latent in the innermost of this holy cycle shall gradually appear and be made manifest, for now is but the beginning of its growth and the dayspring of the revelation of its signs. Ere the close of this century and of this age, it shall be made clear and evident how wondrous was that springtime and how heavenly was that gift. In confirmation of the exalted rank of the true believer referred to by Baha'u'lláh, he reveals the following. The station which he who hath truly recognized this revelation will attain is the same as the one ordained for such prophets of the house of Israel as are not regarded as manifestations endowed with constancy. In connection with the manifestations destined to follow the revelation of Baha'u'lláh, Abdu'l-Baha makes this definite and weighty declaration. Concerning the manifestations that will come down in the future in the shadows of the clouds, know verily that in so far as their relation to the source of their inspiration is concerned, they are under the shadow of the ancient beauty. In their relation, however, to the age in which they appear, each and every one of them doeth whatsoever he willeth. O my friend, he thus addresses in one of his tablets a man of recognized authority and standing, the undying fire which the Lord of the kingdom hath kindled in the midst of the holy tree is burning fiercely in the midmost heart of the world. The conflagration it will provoke will envelop the whole earth. Its blazing flames will illuminate its peoples and kindreds. All the signs have been revealed. Every prophetic allusion hath been manifested. Whatever hath been enshrined in all the scriptures of the past hath been made evident. To doubt or hesitate is no more possible. Time is pressing. The divine charger is impatient and can tarry no longer. Ours is the duty to rush forward, and ere it's too late, win the victory. And finally is this most stirring passage which he in one of his moments of exaltation, was moved to address to one of his most trusted and eminent followers in the earliest days of his ministry. What more shall I say? What else can my pen recount? So loud is the call that reverberates from the Bahá'í kingdom that mortal ears are well nigh deafened with its vibrations. The whole creation, methinks, is being disrupted and is bursting asunder through the shattering influence of the divine summons issued from the throne of glory. More than this, I cannot write. Dearly beloved friends, enough has been said, and the quoted excerpts from the writings of the Bab, of Baha'u'lláh, and of Abdul Baha are sufficiently numerous and varied to convince the conscientious reader of the sublimity of this unique cycle in the world's religious history. It would be utterly impossible to over-exaggerate its significance or to overrate the influence it has exerted and which it must increasingly exert as its great system unfolds itself amidst the welter of a collapsing civilization. To whoever may read these pages, a word of warning seems, however, advisable before I proceed further with the development of my argument. Let no one meditating in the light of the afore-quoted passages on the nature of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh mistake its character or misconstrue the intent of its author. The divinity attributed to so great a being and the complete incarnation of the names and attributes of God in so exalted a person should under no circumstances be misconceived or misinterpreted. The human temple that has been made the vehicle of so overpowering of revelation must, if we be faithful to the tenets of our faith, ever remain entirely distinguished from the innermost spirit of the spirits and eternal essence of essences. That invisible yet rational God who, however much we extol the divinity of his manifestations on earth, can in no wise incarnate his infinite, his unknowable, his incorruptible, and all-embracing reality in the concrete and limited frame of a mortal being. Indeed, the God who could so incarnate his own reality would, in the light of the teachings of Baha'u'lláh, cease immediately to be God. So crude and fantastic a theory of divine incarnation is as removed from and incompatible with the essentials of Baha'i belief, as are the no less inadmissible pantheistic and anthropomorphic conceptions of God, both of which the utterances of Baha'u'lláh emphatically repudiate, and the fallacy of which they expose. He who in unnumbered passages claimed his utterance to be the voice of divinity, the call of God himself, thus solemnly affirms in the Kitab-i-Igan, to every discerning and illumined heart, it is evident that God, the unknowable essence, the divine being, is immeasurably exalted beyond every human attribute, such as corporeal existence, ascent and descent, egress and regress. He is and hath ever been veiled in the ancient eternity of his essence, and will ever remain in his reality everlastingly hidden from the sight of men. He standeth exalted beyond and above all separation and union, all proximity and remoteness. God was alone, there was none else beside him, is a sure testimony of this truth. From time immemorial, Baha'u'lláh, speaking of God, explains, He, the divine being, hath been veiled in the ineffable sanctity of his exalted self, and will everlastingly continue to be wrapped in the impenetrable mystery of his unknowable essence. 10,000 prophets, each of Moses, are thunderstruck upon the Sinai of their search of God's foreboding voice. Thou shalt never behold me, whilst the myriad messengers, each as great as Jesus, stand dismayed upon their heavenly thrones by the interdiction, Mine essence thou shalt never apprehend. How bewildering to me, insignificant as I am, Baha'u'lláh in his communion with God affirms, is the attempt to fathom the sacred depths of thy knowledge. How futile my efforts to visualize the magnitude of the power inherent in thine handiwork, the revelation of thy creative power. When I contemplate, O my God, the relationship that bindeth me to thee, He, in another prayer revealed in his own handwriting, testifies, I am moved to proclaim to all created things, verily I am God. And when I consider my own self, lo, I find it coarser than clay. The door of the knowledge of the Ancient of Days, Baha'u'lláh further states in the Kitab-i-Igan, being thus closed in the face of all beings, he, the source of infinite grace, hath caused those luminous gems of holiness to appear out of the realm of the spirit in the noble form of the human temple, and be made manifest unto all men, that they may impart unto the world the mysteries of the unchangeable being, and tell of the subtleties of his imperishable essence. All the prophets of God, his well-favored, his holy and chosen messengers, are without exception the bearers of his name and the embodiments of his attributes. These tabernacles of holiness, these primal mirrors, which reflect the light of unfading glory, are but expressions of him who is the invisible of the invisible. That Baha'u'lláh should, notwithstanding the overwhelming intensity of his revelation, be regarded as essentially one of these manifestations of God, never to be identified with the invisible reality, the essence of divinity itself, is one of the major beliefs of our faith, a belief which should never be obscured and the integrity of which no one of its followers should allow to be compromised. Nor does the Baha'i revelation, claiming as it does to be the culmination of a prophetic cycle and the fulfillment of the promise of all ages, attempt under any circumstances to invalidate those first and everlasting principles that animate and underlie the religions that have preceded it. The God-given authority vested in each one of them, it admits and establishes as its firmest and ultimate basis. It regards them in no other light except as different stages in the eternal history and constant evolution of one religion, divine and indivisible, of which it itself forms but an integral part. It neither seeks to obscure their divine origin nor to dwarf the admitted magnitude of their colossal achievements. It can countenance no attempt that seeks to distort their features or to stultify the truths which they instill. Its teachings do not deviate a hair's breadth from the verities they enshrine, nor does the weight of its message detract one jot or one tittle from the influence they exert or the loyalty they inspire. Far from aiming at the overthrow of the spiritual foundation of the world's religious systems, its unalterable purpose is to widen their basis, to restate their fundamentals, to reconcile their aims, to reinvigorate their life, to demonstrate their oneness, to restore the pristine purity of their teachings, to coordinate their functions, and to assist in the realization of their highest aspirations. These divinely revealed religions, as a close observer has graphically expressed it, are doomed not to die, but to be reborn. Does not the child succumb in the youth, and the youth in the man? Yet neither child nor youth perishes. They who are the luminaries of truth and the mirrors reflecting the light of divine unity, Baha'u'lláh explains in the Kitab-i-Igan, in whatever age and cycle they are sent down from their invisible habitations of ancient glory unto this world to educate the souls of men and endue with grace all created things, are invariably endowed with an all-compelling power and invested with invincible sovereignty. These sanctified mirrors, these day springs of ancient glory, are one and all the exponents on earth of Him who is the central orb of the universe, its essence and ultimate purpose. From Him proceed their knowledge and power. From Him is derived their sovereignty. The beauty of their countenance is but a reflection of His image, and their revelation a sign of His deathless glory. Through them is transmitted a grace that is infinite, and by them is revealed the light that can never fade. Human tongue can never befittingly sing their praise, and human speech can never unfold their mystery. Inasmuch as these birds of the celestial throne, he adds, are all sent down from the heaven of the will of God, and as they all arise to proclaim his irresistible faith, they therefore are regarded as one soul and the same person. They all abide in the same tabernacle, soar in the same heaven, are seated upon the same throne, utter the same speech, and proclaim the same faith. They only differ in the intensity of their revelation and the comparative potency of their light, that a certain attribute of God hath not been outwardly manifested by these essences of detachment doth in no wise imply that they who are the daysprings of God's attributes and the treasuries of his holy names did not actually possess it. It should also be borne in mind that great as is the power manifested by this revelation, and however vast the range of the dispensation its author has inaugurated, it emphatically repudiates the claim to be regarded as the final revelation of God's will and purpose for mankind. To hold such a conception of its character and functions would be tantamount to a betrayal of its cause and a denial of its truth. It must necessarily conflict with the fundamental principle which constitutes the bedrock of Baha'i belief, the principle that religious truth is not absolute but relative, that divine revelation is orderly, continuous, and progressive, and not spasmodic or final. Indeed, the categorical rejection by the followers of the faith of Baha'u'lláh of the claim to finality, which any religious system inaugurated by the prophets of the past may advance, is as clear and emphatic as their own refusal to claim that same finality for the revelation with which they stand identified. To believe that all revelation is ended, that the portals of divine mercy are closed, that from the daysprings of eternal holiness no sun shall rise again, that the ocean of everlasting bounty is forever stilled, and that out of the tabernacle of ancient glory the messenger of God has ceased to be made manifest, must constitute in the eyes of every follower of the faith a grave and inexcusable departure from one of its most cherished and fundamental principles. A reference to some of the already quoted utterances of Baha'u'lláh and Abdu'l-Baha will surely suffice to establish beyond the shadow of a doubt the truth of this cardinal principle. Might not the following passage of the hidden words be likewise construed as an allegorical allusion to the progressiveness of divine revelation, and an admission by its author that the message with which he has been entrusted is not the final and ultimate expression of the will and guidance of the Almighty. O Son of Justice, in the night season the beauty of the immortal being hath repaired from the emerald height of fidelity unto the Sadratu Muntaha, and wept with such a weeping that the concourse on high and the dwellers of the realms above wailed at his lamenting. Whereupon there was asked, Why the wailing and the weeping? He made reply, As bidden, I waited expected upon the hill of faithfulness, yet inhaled not from them that dwell on earth the fragrance of fidelity. Then summoned to return, I beheld, and lo, certain doves of holiness were sore tried within the claws of the dogs of earth. Thereupon the maid of heaven hastened forth, unveiled and resplendent from her mystic mansion, and asked of their names, and all were told but one. And when urged, the first letter thereof was uttered, whereupon the dwellers of the celestial chambers rushed forth out of their habitation of glory. And whilst the second letter was pronounced, they fell down one and all upon the dust. At that moment a voice was heard from the inmost shrine, Thus far and no farther. Verily we bear witness to that which they have done and now are doing. In a more explicit language, Baha'u'lláh testifies to this truth in one of his tablets revealed in Adrianople. Know verily that the veil hiding our countenance hath not been completely lifted. We have revealed ourselves to a degree corresponding to the capacity of the people of our age. Should the ancient beauty be unveiled in the fullness of his glory, mortal eyes would be blinded by the dazzling intensity of his revelation. In the Suri Isabur, Revealed as far back as the year 1863, on the very first day of his arrival in the Garden of Rizwan, he thus affirms, God has sent down his messengers to succeed to Moses and Jesus, and he will continue to do so to the end that hath no end, so that his grace may from the heaven of divine bounty be continually vouchsafed to mankind. I am not apprehensive for my own self, Baha'u'lláh still more explicitly declares. My fears are for him who will be sent down unto you after me, him who will be invested with great sovereignty and mighty dominion. And again he writes in the Suratul Haikal, by those words which I have revealed myself is not intended, but rather he who will come after me. To it is witness God the all-knowing. Deal not with him, he adds, as ye have dealt with me. In a more circumstantial passage, the Bab upholds the same truth in his writings. It is clear and evident, he writes in the Persian Bayan, that the object of all preceding dispensations hath been to pave the way for the advent of Muhammad, the Apostle of God. These, including the Muhammadan dispensation, have had in their turn as their objective the revelation proclaimed by the Qaim. The purpose underlying this revelation, as well as those that preceded it, has in like manner been to announce the advent of the faith of him whom God will make manifest. And this faith, the faith of him whom God will make manifest, in its turn, together with all the revelations gone before it, have as their object the manifestation destined to succeed it. And the latter, no less than all the revelations preceding it, prepare the way for the revelation which is yet to follow. The process of the rise and setting of the Sun of Truth will thus indefinitely continue, a process that hath had no beginning and will have no end. Know of a certainty, Baha'u'lláh explains in this connection, that in every dispensation the light of divine revelation has been vouchsafed to men in direct proportion to their spiritual capacity. Consider the sun, how feeble its rays the moment it appeareth above the horizon, how gradually its warmth and potency increase as it approaches its zenith, enabling meanwhile all created things to adapt themselves to the growing intensity of its light, how steadily it declines until it reaches its setting point. Were it all of a sudden to manifest the energies latent within it, it would no doubt cause the injury to all created things. In like manner, if the Sun of Truth were suddenly to reveal at the earliest stage of its manifestation the full measure of its potency which the providence of the Almighty hath bestowed upon it, the earth of human understanding would waste away and be consumed, for men's hearts would neither sustain the intensity of its revelation, nor be able to mirror forth the radiance of its light. Dismayed and overpowered, they would cease to exist. In light of these clear and conclusive statements, it is our clear duty to make it indubitably evident to every seeker after truth that from the beginning that hath no beginning, the prophets of the one, the unknowable God, including Baha'u'lláh himself, have all as the channels of God's grace, as the exponents of his unity, as the mirrors of his light, and the revealers of his purpose, been commissioned to unfold to mankind an ever-increasing measure of his truth, of his inscrutable will and divine guidance, and will continue to the end that hath no end, to vouchsafe still fuller and mightier revelations of his limitless power and glory. We might well ponder in our hearts the following passages from a prayer revealed by Baha'u'lláh, which strikingly affirm and are a further evidence of the reality of the great and essential truth lying at the very core of his message to mankind. Praise be to thee, O Lord my God, for the wondrous revelations of thine inscrutable decree, and the manifold woes and trials thou hast destined for myself. At one time thou didst deliver me into the hands of Nimrod, at another thou hast allowed Pharaoh's rod to persecute me. Thou alone canst estimate, through thine all-encompassing knowledge and the operation of thy will, the incalculable afflictions I have suffered at their hands. Again, thou didst cast me into the prison cell of the ungodly for no reason except that I was moved to whisper into the ears of the well-favored denizens of thy kingdom an intimation of the vision with which thou hadst, through thy knowledge, inspired me and revealed me its meaning through the potency of thy might. And again, thou didst decree that I be beheaded by the sword of the infidel. Again, I was crucified for having unveiled to men's eyes the hidden gems of thy glorious unity, for having revealed to them the wondrous signs of thy sovereign and everlasting power. How bitter the humiliations heaped upon me in a subsequent age on the plain of Karbala. How lonely did I feel amidst thy people. To what state of helplessness I was reduced in that land. Unsatisfied with such indignities, my persecutors decapitated me and carried aloft my head from land to land, paraded it before the gaze of the unbelieving multitude, and deposited it on the seats of the perverse and faithless. In a later generation, I was suspended, and my breast was made a target to the darts of the malicious cruelty of my foes. My limbs were riddled with bullets, and my body was torn asunder. Finally, behold how in this day my treacherous enemies have leagued themselves against me, and are continually plotting to instill the venom of hate and malice into the souls of thy servants. With all their might they are scheming to accomplish their purpose. Grievous as is my plight, O God, my well-beloved, I render thanks unto thee, and my spirit is grateful for whatsoever hath befallen me in the path of thy good pleasure. I am well pleased with that which thou didst ordain for me, and welcome, however calamitous the pains and sorrows I am made to suffer.